Thank you. Good evening. It's 6 o'clock. It's Tuesday, May 13th, and I'm going to call this committee of the whole into order. Councillor Scott McLean is going to be a few minutes late, so Clerk Snare, if you could note that, and that we do have quorum. Moving along to approval of the agenda. The dashboard items are there for information log and dangerous and unsightly. Is there any additions or any questions on the dashboard? Seeing no lights, we'll move and the agenda will be approved as circulated. Does anyone have any? Oh, Councillor Larry Pinch, I just saw your light. Okay, no problem. Just making sure. Any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none, we'll go along to announcements. We acknowledge West Hants Regional Municipality as Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This land is governed by the treaties of peace and friendship signed in 1726. West Hants Regional Municipality recognizes we are all treaty people and have responsibility to this land and each other. West Hants Regional Municipality also recognizes African Nova Scotians are a distinct people whose history, legacies, and contributions have enriched the part of Mi'kma'ki known as Nova Scotia for over 400 years. Council and I, as chair, are committed to ensuring this meeting and its participants conduct themselves in a respectful and professional manner as outlined in the municipality's municipal code of conduct. Meeting presenters, staff, and the public are expected to conduct themselves in an equally respectful manner at all times the meeting is being conducted. I thank you all in advance for your commitment to these important meeting principles. Any other announcements, Council? White bunch so far. Seeing no announcements, we'll move right along. The minutes of 2025-04-18 Committee of the Whole was circulated in your packages. Is there any changes to them? Seeing none, they will be approved as circulated. So moving right along, we're into presentations. Our first presentation is Annapolis Valley Regional Library and CAO Julia Merritt. So we have 15 minutes, so you just press your button there and we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, everybody, for having me this evening. It's my pleasure to be with you again today. My name is Julia Merritt, and I am the CEO of Annapolis Valley Regional Library. I am here just to do a very quick review of the library's activities over the last year and provide you with a interim update on the provincial government's funding formula review. So with respect to 24-25, I do continue to have good news to report there in terms of community engagement and participation. Last year, we changed the model for the Summer Reading Club, making sure that we were delivering programs equitably across all 11 branches. And I'm delighted to report that participation doubled over 2023 with over 2,000 registered participants and over 2.3 million minutes read, which was an all-time high for the library. We hope to grow this participation again this year to combat summer reading slide and help families stay connected with their communities with free family activities. Also last year, we had over 3,700 new members, which brings us up to over 25,000 active users. An active user is someone who's used their card in the last 2 years. So that means that nearly 1 in 4 Valley residents has an active user card, which is really, really fantastic. Also, we worked with 4 municipalities to eliminate the supper hour closure that was remaining at 4 branches. 3 of those branches were in Annapolis County, and then 1 was in Kings County, Port Williams. So we now have continuous service hours over the 5 to 6:30 p.m. time slot, as well as a small increase to the number of open hours at those locations. Next slide, please. Thank you. I also have good news to report with respect to the long-term usage of the library. When we pull the data from 2009 to 2024, we can see that the circulation of books alone has increased by 30% over those 15 years. In comparison, the region's population has only had a net increase of 10% during that time frame. So that number doesn't include anything related to walk-in traffic, program attendance, computer usage, or any other form of help that the library provides. And some of you may remember the last time I was here, I was talking about Wi-Fi usage and hardwired computer usage in the branch. And in the last year, there was over 300,000 hours of usage of connectivity across the branches in the region. So really speaks to just the volume of business that we're doing on a day-to-day basis and the increase that we're seeing long-term. So it's speaking to the ongoing importance of the library in people's lives. When we look at the data, we can very closely see really big increases in two periods of time. The first being between 2015 and 2019, which is when 5 of the 11 library branches were either renovated or rebuilt. You can see a really big bump out of circulation at that time. And then the second was when we joined the Same Page Consortium in 2022, which increased the size of the collection from about 120,000 physical items to over 1 million items. So that huge rise again, really proof that investment in libraries and their resources is both welcome and well used by the public. And here we are, which brings me to the update on the funding formula review. We did submit fully costed research to the province in 2024 regarding national averages being spent across the country in collections, technology, and wages. The current formula, as you may remember, expired on March 31st of this year, and there was no new funding for libraries included in the province's 2025-26 budget. Saying that, work with the government is ongoing, and we know that the library funding review file is still open. And while that process is taking place, Nova Scotia libraries have made 2 emergency requests for interim funding this year. The first was for $800,000 to ensure that the amount of funding we received this year would remain the same as last year. That has been approved. And then the second request for $1.6 million has not received a decision to date. That second amount would primarily address the impact of the increase to the minimum wage across the province. And again, it's a 1-year request. So although that would be helpful for this current year, it's critical to ensure that we continue working towards a long-term sustainable funding model. Next slide, please. And your council has previously heard that AVRL has already had to make difficult decisions regarding reducing staff and services already, despite the increases in usage over time. The biggest takeaway for us at AVRL is that we have already eliminated 12 full-time equivalent permanent positions over the last 10 years to cope with inflation and cost increases. Then in 2024, we reduced program offerings by 50% because of the loss of staff, and we're no longer able to participate in partnerships with community organizations or government departments. So while we're seeing these massive increases over time, we are also actively reducing service and the ability to deliver what we have promised in terms of service to our communities. With respect to 2024-25, AVRL does have the reserve funds available to continue to operate at this reduced level of service this year. That will not be the case in 2026. Other library regions, I would note, are in much worse shape than us, and they may be forced to make drastic cuts this year as soon as potentially this summer, if they're not able to obtain a portion of that 1.6 million requests that I just mentioned. All 9 library regions in the province are continuing to communicate collectively with the ministry. And I've been meeting with MLAs individually to ensure that everyone's fully aware of the situation. The local library board would like to thank West Hants for the joint letter that you sent to the ministry in March, which I understand has inspired some other municipalities across the province to follow suit and submit their letter of concern as well. So to sum up, we are urging the government to address the funding priorities as soon as possible to prevent more loss of service and to be able to provide the level of service that Nova Scotians are both asking for, use, and deserve. And with that, I will finish and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Julia, for the presentation. Counselors, do you have any questions for Julia? Counselor Remy.
Through you, Chair. Julia, I was just curious, could you speak to, in there, you were talking about having to reduce some of the programs and the community partnerships and those types of things to the effect of that, just understanding that libraries are so important to the community. So could you just speak to that a little bit? Like, is it impacting the community or the programs that you can offer, or the partnerships that you did have that you don't have now?
So one of the biggest impacts in terms of partnerships is that we're no longer partnering with Nova Scotia Health. They were delivering vaccine clinics at libraries. There was, of course, rapid test distribution at libraries. There was other information sharing and information gathering. There was some research projects that Nova Scotia Health was working on and wanted to be able to use libraries as a site to be able to collect information, to be able to make their services better. Those are things we simply don't have the staff to be able to manage, especially at the volume that they were coming in. There was a real demand for using libraries as a touch point in the community. They're accessible to everybody, both sort of physically, but also attitudinally, right? They are secular, they're free to enter, and we do have a good reputation in terms of being welcoming and reliable sources of information. So with 80 locations across the province and open, depending on where you are, you have access 7 days a week. They're really good opportunities for delivering services to the community, getting information out there and making connections in that way. We're just not able to do that at this point. We don't have the staff. And similarly with programs, we've reduced our program offerings in terms of number by 50%. Like I said, Summer Reading Club was great last year, but that was also contract summer students who were there for 4 months and were able to do that dedicated work. There's nobody on staff that can work on programs on an ongoing basis now. So we don't do author readings anymore. And of course, there's a very large and flourishing artistic community in the Valley. We don't offer any of those kinds of cultural events. We don't offer anybody who's interested in doing something new. We have to say no. Clubs to do, after school programs for kids, it's all a no. So we've really cut back down to the really very minimal number of story times that we can handle with the staff we already have, some tech programs and some longstanding book clubs, and then the summer reading club, and that's it. So still people are really missing out. No March break, no winter holiday programs, none of it.
Great. Any other questions for Julie? Seeing no lights, thank you for the presentation. Mayor's Fabian.
Oh,
Nothing?
since it was on, thanks, Julia. We appreciate all you do for the libraries. My kids still talk about story time, believe it or not, and this is 8 and 9 years later. So it is important. What you guys do is important, and it's appreciated. To end off on a good note.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Council?
Thank you.
I'm looking, no, seeing none. So thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you. I'll be in
Have a
touch
good night.
as soon as I have any more information.
Sounds great. Thank you. Okay, our next presentation is the Hampshire Child Care Association and Lori Maxwell and friends, come on up and introduce yourself. And as I said, 15 minutes, the floor is yours and we'll have some questions. Perfect. Just turn your light on, Lori, to speak in. Press the button on the bottom till the red light comes on. There you go.
Alrighty. I guess I will get started with an introduction this evening. So first and foremost, thank you for having us as the Hampshire Child Care Association. This is our first time presenting to council as a new association, so we thank you for your time and consideration. So I'm just going to quickly go through the agenda. We can get our presentation up there before Lori takes over with the meat and potatoes. All right, so we can, next slide, please. All right, so I'll start off this evening with a quick introduction of our board of directors. We'll then get into our organizational background, so how we came to be as an association and our community demand for childcare. We'll then go through our progress as an association to date. We'll then talk about our vision as a childcare association and a childcare center, both our vision in terms of facility and also community partnerships. We'll then get into our ask and speak about the land in question, and we'll open up the floor for questions from our counselors. Okay, so our board of directors is made up of a group of moms in the Hants County community, specifically the Hants Shore. Myself, I'm Jocelyn Bryson. I am the secretary. We have Shanda Smith with us here today, who's an avid member of our community. She's our treasurer. We have Melissa Wilson, who represents our board as an ECE mentor, I would say. We have Megan Crocker, who is our marketing and communication specialist. And last but certainly not least, we have Lori Maxwell, who's our president and founder. So she's going to be walking us through the association background.
All right. Thank you very much. And thank you again for having us. I'm going to jump right into the background. This started last fall when I called Councillor Rupert Yanish regarding the Hants Shore Health Center. There once upon a time was a daycare space in the basement, and he sits on the chair of that board. So we met up, we measured some things, we chit-chatted, and I really dove into what the regulations looked like for a childcare facility. We then met with the board and discussed the possibility of something happening in that space. We did a lot of humming and thinking and hawing, and I think at some point Rupert and I came to the conclusion that that maybe was not the best space for multiple reasons. It's an older building, and things like septic you would have to be overhauled and that sort of thing. So that turned into, well, let's figure out really what is the need. And from there we launched, and I say we, this was still me back in fall, a petition just to gain interest, to get out in the community and really figure out what support was in that community. So that petition really worked. From there, in the new year, we were able to pull together a board in February 13th, we became a nonprofit association. I'm just going to quickly be awkward and read over my notes here.
I think one stat that is important to mention is on that petition, we received over 200 names from members of the community in support of a child care center. Those names both represent people who are supportive of a child care center, but also in dire need.
Thank you. So once we, in February, we're gaining interest. We held a community meeting and welcomed our two counselors that this would primarily affect, which was Scott McLean and Rupert Yanish. And we also invited Abe, and Cody Blois showed up as well. So from there, we were having bigger conversations. So let's go to next slide, please. Progress. Okay, so as I said, we did register and as a nonprofit, and that has allowed us to apply for funding. We have applied for the municipal funding, operational and gift in kind, and then we started fundraising as well. We are out in the community at a lot of events, trying to really get the word out and raise a bit of funds for our group. We've also connected with the 2 other registered childcare facilities in the area. And with that, we are gaining an understanding of what the need really is. This is really what we're basing the need off of. So Windsor Daycare has a wait list of circulating around between 100 and 200 that represents almost a 2-year wait list. And Brooklyn is looking like the same. Windsor is a 120 child facility and Brooklyn is I think 70 or 75. So based on those numbers alone, we are really gauging what the need is along with that information that we gained from our petition. We've had multiple meetings with the province regarding funding. There is grants available right now for infrastructure funding, and then there is the ongoing operational funding that is the wage subsidy and childcare price subsidy and multiple programs. The province has a mandate to provide high quality childcare to all, and they do mean all. So what that could potentially look like, the goal for next year is a $10 a day price, $10 a day per child price. And if you are low income, that can even be knocked down by 50%. So that is looking like $5 a day per child for quality childcare in your area, which is really accessible to all. We've also reached out to Deanna Hamilton. She's the before and after school coordinator in the region and kind of got the ins and outs of what that looks like. So this is part of hopefully what we can provide with our childcare facilities, full spectrum. Next slide, please. So our vision, I don't have a lot to, we can all read off the slide here, and that is the nuts and bolts of it is children aged 6 months to 11 years old, excuse me, offering before and after school programming, full-time and part-time, serving both Brooklyn and Dr. Arthur Hine Elementary. And we're looking at a space that would house 60 children, and the goal is to be open by 2027. The vision for the facility is to be smart and eco-friendly, solar-powered, temperature control, safe and accessible to all, abundance of natural light, outdoor play area that is sheltered for days that aren't too nice, consideration for future expansion, and multi-purpose room for expanding needs in the community. Next, yeah, perfect. So the other vision for the piece of land is to not only maintain a portion of the land for community space, but to work with the community in hopes to build lasting connections. We'll soon be looking at the piece of land in question, but it's adjacent to the Upper Burlington Community Hall, and they have been extremely supportive of the project. The local 4-H club that primarily uses the hall is supportive of the project. And I think we can come up with interesting and collaborative ways to support one another. We want the community hall to stay relevant. And one idea is right now they have parking space for 5 cars. If we have a facility next door, then we can at least provide the community center some parking. Another idea is perhaps a built structure that they can use as an outdoor space for community events. Additionally, there is a trail on the property, and I think that would be nice to maintain the trail and the historic piece. We want to preserve the efforts of Randy Barkhouse and the Upper Burlington Community Hall. Next slide. So the land that we're looking at is known as the Upper Burlington Planters Trail. It's a 3-acre parcel. and it's currently zoned as open space. So it encases the 215 highway and the old Walton's Woods Road. I think we originally got excited about this piece of land for a few reasons. And the big one is location. Everyone leaving the shore either is traveling up the 215 or coming up the Walton's Woods Road. So it would really service anyone working and leaving the shore. We've also reached out to the Naples Valley Regional School Board bus garage, and they seem willing to bus children back and forth, even though it is in the Brooklyn School District. They would also go to Dr. Arthur Hines. Next page. Next slide. Okay, thank you. So our ask tonight is for the municipality to grant us a 3-acre parcel of land in Upper Burlington and to help us with the guidance of the rezoning process.
Okay, so before we open it up for Q&A, I just wanted to tie off a couple of things. So with a little to no promotion, we do have a wait list for this childcare facility. So again, little to no promotion. We already have 80 families registered on this list with one or multiple children. So that's just a small representation of the need of this facility in the area. As a child care association, we meet monthly. So the first Wednesday of every month at the Center Burlington Community Hall. So this is an ongoing community effort put on by the board of directors. And last, we do have ongoing fundraising as an association going on to help with things like applications. So we really appreciate the municipality's support this evening. I guess we can open it up to questions.
You've done a great job. So good job, Jocelyn and Lori. Survived. So council, does anyone, I'll start with Mayor Zabian.
Absolutely. Great job, you guys. From that first night meeting to where you are now, you guys have come up quite a long way. So that's kudos to you. That's quite incredible. Just 2 questions. Timeline on completion. If everything was to fall in order and the cosmos align and everything is perfect.
If everything aligns, you got it. Well, it depends on the biggest, what we have to do next is if we're in agreement, if this sounds like a plan that council can get behind, we are then looking at the rezoning. And I understand that that takes 6 to 8 months. So that puts us into winter. That would allow our contractor to plan a beautiful facility over the winter and break ground in the spring. The provincial funding right now has a 1-year time limit of as soon as you dig in the ground, it has to be open doors. So with that time limit, that would put us open at spring of 2027.
Okay, perfect. And total cost of project.
So right now, currently, the provincial funding is $1 million. We have got some, I'm going to say, rough quotes, and it's in that ballpark between 1 million and 1.2 million.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Yanish.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just echo Abe's comments, but you guys have made tremendous progress since we first met at the health center. It's remarkable how much you've done and how much support you've managed to gather in the community. And I would also say that I think at the meeting we had at the Center Burlington Hall when Cotw Blois was there and Abe, we tossed a lot of ideas around about locations. And I think that the decision to try and push forward with the municipal land next to the Kennecook River, I think is a really sound one because of the central location, because it's not only the shore that this daycare could serve, but the need is much wider. So it's a very, very central location, and I hope we can council that we can support it. So thank you very much for the presentation, and let's keep moving forward with this.
Thank you.
Councillor Bonnie Smith.
Thank you.
Thanks. Through your chair. Hi, I've had a couple chances to talk to Lori, and I'm very excited about this. Being on the Windsor Daycare Board, I know the wait list is huge. We do have a wait list of over 100 kids, and our center only holds 100 kids. When so I went to Heather at the daycare center and asked her about the wait list for your area. So in the Avondale and Scotch Village area, we have a wait list at the Windsor Daycare Center of 38 children already. So I'm sure a lot of them hopefully have been directed to your wait list and are on there now. What else did I want to mention? Oh, the access to that or that property that you're looking at is bordering on 2 roads. Do you have an idea which one you might use for access into the property?
I think for road safety, you would access from the old Walton's Woods Road.
Great.
That would allow to, and I say that because as soon as people hit that spot on the 215 and they see the dike, they're speeding up to pass everyone they possibly can.
Yeah.
So I think for road safety, yes. And there is currently a culvert there. I'm sure it would be replaced and that sort of thing, but
Great. Awesome.
Thank you,
that was my only
Bonnie.
question.
Counselor Larry Pinch.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to note that I was very pleased to see that it was 6 months to 11 years, just because that age group below 2.5. I know Councillor Morton and I sit on the Windsor Nursery School Board, and it's 2.5 and above. And so parents between, when maternity leave typically ends between 12 and 18 months, and when the 2.5, there's kind of nowhere to go. So I thought it was definitely meeting a need that perhaps isn't met by other centers as well, given the age of commencement. So I think that that's really a good sign.
And I want to add to that, speaking with the province and the wage subsidies that the province provides, or your operational fees, I thought maybe maybe just giving so much per staff. And when you look at that age group, your ratio becomes 1 caretaker to 4. And I was like, maybe that's why a lot of daycares don't do it. But there is programming specifically for that age group. So the math still works out that it is viable to really catch that age, to provide a service to that age.
Counselor Remy.
Thank you, Chair. I just have one question. I apologize because I was writing something when you guys had said it. Did you say that you were speaking with Brooklyn so you guys could actually take some of the kids from Brooklyn School as well? The elementary school?
Not the elementary school. We were speaking with the bus garage, and they would be in accordance to transporting children back
From-
to Dr. Arthur Hines and Brooklyn Elementary School.
Okay, sorry.
It's
Thank you.
okay.
No, thank you. I started writing it, but just wanted clarification. Thank you so much.
Any other questions, Counselor? Or Lori, did you want to add something to? Just put your light on, please. Just- All good? Okay, so everyone's good? Well, thank you very much for the presentation. We wish you all the best, and it's something for council to consider. So great. Thanks. Have a good night. So we're going to move along, council, to 8 unfinished business postponed motions. Peace and Good Orderly Bylaw Information Recommendation Report. Clerk Snare.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So prior to this, the report was circulated in the agenda. And just to give a little brief history, both the communities of Hantsport and Windsor have longstanding noise bylaws that remain active, while the former municipality of the District of West Hants does not or never had a noise bylaw. We have certainly had this discussion since 2023, and different versions of the noise bylaw have been presented. Feedback has been received, revisions were made, and they've been re-presented for consideration. Unfortunately, none of those revised bylaws were supported, and at the March 14th, 2023 meeting, no direction was provided. So discussions ceased at that time. But since then, discussions have resumed around creating a noise bylaw. And before you is a draft peace and good order bylaw. During the discussion, during previous discussions, several concerns were raised related to bylaws potentially creating animosity between residents and neighbors and creating community conflict, and blanket policies being difficult to enforce. Different communities or individuals having different noise disturbances, tolerances, and the ability to enforce a noise bylaw, specifically after hours, as WHRM bylaw work 8:30 to 4:30. So following these discussions, staff were directed to revisit the noise bylaw and provide a report for consideration. Since that meeting, further discussions regarding fireworks have risen and suggestions were made that a noise bylaw or a peace and good order bylaw may be beneficial in helping to alleviate some of those concerns. An additional topic has been raised by individual council members regarding the enforcement of tenting on municipal lands by people living rough. This activity is currently restricted under a different bylaw and not required in this bylaw. So we'll fast forward to the creation of this bylaw. Through this, we sought opinions from the RCMP, fire chiefs, bylaw, and the solicitor with respect to the ability to enforce the bylaw and any concerns they may have, and statistics on the complaints received. So since January 2023, 38 calls were received by West Hants bylaw. Of those, 20 calls were related to barking dogs, which were addressed through the dog bylaw. The remaining 8 noise complaints consisted of ventilation noise, construction noise, gun-related noise, and agricultural uses, and party music. Party noise and gun-related noises, specifically related to guns, are addressed through the RCMP, and agricultural uses are protected under the Farms Protection Act for farmers against nuisance complaints. So the existing bylaw speaks to challenges associated with enforcement. Those are all listed within the report as well. And it does speak a little bit about fireworks. So fireworks, organized or private, are not illegal in Nova Scotia and are not regulated under are regulated under the federal legislation. Under provincial legislation, the Nova Scotia Fire Safety Act adopts the National Fire Code of Canada and imposes fire safety guidelines on the use of fireworks. The province of Nova Scotia does very little to regulate consumer fireworks, as they are seen as low hazard and restricted to recreational use. However, they do ban the use of consumer or recreational fireworks when burn restrictions are in place. And although fireworks can negatively affect veterans, individuals with sensory sensitivities, and animals, they are challenging to enforce and regulate due to the short duration. Courtesy, communication with neighbors, example, notifying them in advance, help maintain respectful community relations and allow others to prepare for the noise. Within the report, it speaks to comments and challenges from the WHRM bylaw, RCM, and fire chiefs regarding regulating and enforcement of fireworks. And those are noted within the report. Some of the issues were related to, or some of the suggestions made were issuing permits. The challenge with that is issuing permits to discharge of fireworks requires a person to administer that permit. A permit for fireworks would only apply to quote unquote an honest person. The information would need to be communicated to community members advising a permit was issued to discharge fireworks, and awareness of permits being issued would need to be public to ensure neighbors were aware a permit was obtained. The question then would fall to who would be responsible to issue these permits: a municipal bylaw, an administrator, municipal customer service rep, fire chiefs, etc. All these may require additional resources outside of what are currently in place. A permit system would likely not deter the purchase and use of legal or illegal fireworks, nor reduce the illegal or inappropriate use of legal fireworks. It may be that only the current responsible firework user would be inclined to obtain a permit, as there would be nothing in place to prevent a person from purchasing them. Through an enforcement lens, questions were raised about who is in charge. Is it the property owner or is it the tenant? As most fireworks only last 7 to 10 minutes, making enforcement very difficult unless someone's seen the person setting them off and wanted to provide a statement in intent court. Local fire chiefs provided comments that they noted fireworks are not permitted when burn restrictions were in place under the Nova Scotia burn, And they raised concerns regarding enforcement and the ability to enforce such a bylaw and potential impacts to fire service world should complaint calls be dispatched through 911 after hours. If fire were required to respond to after-hour complaints, these calls may impede the ability to respond to other emergency calls. In response to how many calls were received related to firework complaints, all parties, RCMP, fire chiefs, and bylaws all advise that they have yet to receive a complaint. And the remaining information pertaining to the bylaw is within the report, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Clerk Snare, for the report. It was circulated, so I'm assuming everyone's had a chance to read it. Are there any questions for Clerk Snare at this time? Counselor Bob Morton?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. As stated, probably I think back in 2023, I still struggle with this just over the enforcement. Looking at the complaints that came in, as Clerk Snare alluded to, 30 of them were barking dogs, and our bylaw looks after that anyway. We had a ventilation noise, and honestly, that was me. So that's that's been looked after. But construction noise, we can't do anything about really. I mean, they can't start until certain times, and agriculture noise is what it is. When I look through the things that it would include, the RCMP look after them anyway. So I think it's really just putting an undue amount of work on our bylaw enforcement. Most of these are looked after other ways. So I think it's a great report. It's a lot of work that was put into it, just not at this time something I would support.
Thank you. Anyone else with any questions? Mayor Zabian?
Yeah, thank you to you, through you, Chair, to Clerk Snare. I think it was a well done report. A lot of work has gone into it. It's been like a winding road of ups and downs and roller coasters, Chair. I think it's a great first step, to be honest with you. It's pretty much speaking to people being neighborly and just being good citizens. And it's just something that if in place, it just gives our CMP something more to fall back on, gives bylaw something to fall back on, and just being good people is what it's speaking to. I think it's a good first step for creating something that's more robust in the future.
Thank you. Counselor Remy?
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Chair. I went on because similar to what Counselor Morton was saying, I found there was a lot of duplication in it as far as like how this would be, enforced and those types of things, and the extra burden on the staff to do it, especially because it's most of the time outside of their regular working hours. So taking that into account. So anyway, I did go down a bit of a rabbit hole though with, to see if there was other ways we could do this outside of a bylaw. And they did have a very cool thing that they had launched in HRM. It's called like Good Neighbors, Good Neighborhoods. And it kind of spoke to the one of the options that we had in the back here of this report, where it spoke to education and those types of things, and doing a little bit of a campaign around, let your neighbors know. And anyway, I just thought it was a very cool idea outside of putting it in here and adding that enforcement piece of it, because it's kind of just a campaign that would help in other ways aside from just fireworks, just to be a good neighbor, and I think that that's something that all of West Hants, maybe rose-colored glasses saying this, but everybody could embrace and then just be a good neighbor, as opposed to putting the added burden on staff and the RCMP and such.
Thank you. Counselor John Smith?
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to highlight too the piece in the regulation about the staff would also like to engage in education programs to raise awareness about fireworks safety and promote responsible use through our website and social media pages. I don't think it would cost very much, but it may go a long way. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Ivy?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I guess I think back about the couple of times we went through this, and I recall we sort of got hung up on the timing of the hours that a noise or peace and good order bylaw would be enforced, when it would start in the morning, when it would end at night, because different people, different businesses operate with different hours. We know that the way email comes and goes, that it's different hours that we all function at and so on. So it's interesting. I think the attempt to try and get it to a peace and good order is a good thing. It wasn't lost on me that in looking at the complaints that came in through 2023, that 30 were associated with barking dogs out of the 38 or 75%. To be barking dogs, which is animals being animals. Everybody does their best, I think, to control them. I mean, some of us are better at it than others, but it's one of those things that difficult to control. And the other ones are, somewhat modest. We do hear too, though, of complaints that would go more to the peace and good order with people that are a little bit out of sorts going down the street and otherwise that can cause disturbance for which there may be, an appropriate action to take place. So I generally support it. I guess the one question I have, we don't make reference here to, unless I missed it, the two noise bylaws that exist within Windsor and Hantsport, whether those would remain or whether those would be overtaken. We would make this a regional bylaw. So through you, Chair, a question to the clerk who did the report. Is there any sense of that as to what the intent on that would be?
Through you, Madam Chair. Quite honestly, I'd be looking to take direction from council on that, where this is a peace and good order. The other noise bylaws do have a bit more teeth to them, so they are a bit more enforceable. But I'd be looking for direction on how council wishes to proceed with those.
Thank you very much for that. And maybe just a follow up or might be information that we'd look at to know what happens with this. But so we knew what bylaw received by way of complaints in 2023, give or take. I'm curious about how many would have gone through Windsor or Hantsport. If we know that, we may not know it, or they may just have it anecdotally, but it might be helpful to know whether that's worth having those remain in place or having them set aside with a regional one taking place over that. I'm not sure, but they may be able to guide us.
Just, Madam Chair, if you can give me a moment, I'll check.
Sure.
Thank you.
Is that all once she has? Okay.
That's all that I have. Yeah, thanks.
For you, Madam Chair. Unfortunately, I don't have the location. Actually, I do. Sorry. So District 8, 3 of the barking dog complaints would have come from District 8. And District 8 had no noise complaints. So that is Hantsport. And if you could tell me the other one you were looking for?
Windsor is the other one that has it. My apologies. Windsor, which would be districts 10 and 11, have is the other area with specific noise bylaws in place for.
Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councillor Ivy. So districts 10 and 11 would have had accumulation of 11 complaints of barking dogs, and they would have had 2 other noise complaints during that time period. So that was from January of 2023 till May of 2025.
Well, thank you. That's quite a telling number by way of total volume over time. Thank you.
Council, any other questions? Councillor Paul Morton, sorry.
So just to go back to peace and good order, every time it comes to police board advisor, the RCMP are supporting this. It gives them more teeth to enforce things. So without anything, it's harder for them to enforce. But with this, it gives them some more clout to be able to do something, to talk to people more. And they would encourage it.
Any other, Mayor Zavian?
I think we have a couple of barking dog complaints down from District 11 or District 7 as well that I know of. So, but I'll make a recommendation so council can have discussion on it. Chair. Move that council approves and gives first reading to the Peace and Good Order Bylaw, our COPG-001 is presented in the May 13th, 2025 report to Committee of the Whole.
Is there a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Morton. Is there any other questions on the motion? Seeing none, I would like to make I wasn't as supportive of this before, and still not overly 100%. There is one just that one comment in there, just under the draft, that says no person within the municipality shall make unnecessary noise which is disturbing to other persons. That's pretty wide open for me because I could go out and bang my drum, or someone might not like drums or something. So I do struggle with that one. And I mean, the report is great, but that one I do struggle with. And the other thing that Counselor Paul Morton, I did meet with RCMP probably a month ago with a business with our CAO and our mayor and RCMP, and they are having some issues in Windsor. And the comment was made, this would just give them something that they could, as a backup, help with them. And hearing it from them really changed my mind. I don't think we're going to have staff running out for someone, or I think it's just something to give them backup. And I'm coming around. Same with the bylaw after hours and stuff. But other than that one, that line in there, I that's the only one I question on that. But I do think RCMP is asking for something. It just gives them something stronger. They have nothing that we're going to have staff out running around. But yeah, just my comment. Councillor Bob Morton.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just knowing that I'll support this tonight because it'll give me a couple of weeks to chat with the RCMP as well. So I'd like to see it go through tonight, just give everybody the chance to get more information. So certainly appreciate bringing that forward.
Councillor Larry Pinch.
Perhaps just for my own clarification purposes, that if this were in place and there was someone challenging someone to fight or using, abusive behavior, that would not be our bylaw, even if during operating hours, enforcement going out to that scenario, it would be RCMP who would be attending.
I don't want to speak for RCMP, but I would assume so. That would be their
Okay.
lane, not ours.
Yes, I just wouldn't want to put our staff in some
No.
of those situations.
No.
So, okay.
Any other questions? If not, I'll look for the question. Oh yeah, we don't call it a question anymore. Clerk's an error. Can we put that to vote, please? We haven't been voting on budget meetings, so. Motion carried. Okay, we're moving right along. 8B, municipal surplus land information request for decision report, CAO Phillips.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, another report that you have had in your package. So I'll just kind of hit the high points here. So you now have the benefit of a few attachments. And of course, as a new council, you've kind of inherited the stewardship of all kinds of things, but certainly municipal surplus lands would be one that we're seeing which direction you may want to go. So again, give you a little bit more background information that originates with the previous West Hants Council pre-consolidation, where there was a process of evaluating municipally owned parkland, we'll say, and open space land, and then a recommendation through the report to deem them as surplus, as the thought of the day was that they were not of any use to the municipality at that time. So with consolidation, staff just kind of kept that momentum moving forward. And we had some motions of council, which of course have already been made and on the books with respect to certain parcels being deemed surplus. And then we tipped our toe in the water and rezoning some additional lands so that they would be more market ready. And then the council today kind of went through that evaluation process, and we kind of pump the brakes, I think was the term that we had used at that time with respect to rezoning and then selling. So with that information now, hopefully council feels you have a complete picture of at least the progress of thought to date. Of course, this council has the opportunity to change direction. So I've put what I would think would be at least three options there. And one is 1A, 1B, where council may wish to proceed with the sale of the surplus lands as is, just put them on the market. All or some, I guess I should say. And option 1B would be to proceed with the noted surplus lands, but to have them rezoned so that they are in the best use or potentially the best opportunity for another life, whether it be redeveloped or a residential property. And then option 2, where council could not proceed with rezoning or selling of lands and just kind of either deal with them on a one-on-one basis or not. And then I could have said in there, perhaps I did in the report, there may be another plan. Maybe this council is looking at one or some of those parcels and wish to go a different direction. So for your consideration, Madam Chair.
Thank you, CAO. So council, if there's any questions, there's no motion. It's just our CAO is looking for direction. So there are 3 options there. Option 1 has A and B. So if there's any questions or anyone wants to recommend an option? Councillor Scott McLean.
Thank you, Chair. I guess, yeah, I mean, I would having a hard issue with the Millard Court, 452-36601 PID. We went through this before and there was quite a public outcry over it. So, I mean, I'd like to see that one pulled, but it's up to you guys. It's up to council.
Anyone else? Councillor Larry Pinch.
So I think that I would be happy to divest of some of the surplus land, but perhaps not all the land that's listed in the list that was circulated. So I don't know if we can have a discussion like there is background as Councillor McLean just suggested with that one particular property, because maybe there are others that have a similar background or some that have absolutely no background. So they would be without public scrutiny to divest them as surplus.
Councillor Bonnie Smith.
I just had a question and I'm not sure when the right time is to ask it, but we had the presentation tonight from the childcare, Shore Childcare Association, and one of those properties is on our list, PID 54285103. So I'm just, when do we discuss that?
CAO.
Well, you have a little bit of latitude, I would suggest, Madam Chair, if you wanted to entertain that on that specific parcel. And give you a little background as to how you might proceed if that was
That's
desire.
yeah.
So it's probably assumed with that society and as they were giving their presentation there on Registry Joint Stocks, February 13th, 2025. So they are a society, non-for-profit. So non-for-profit land sale or lease can happen at below market value, where otherwise, if we're selling it privately to someone, it has to meet the market value threshold, which is usually through an appraisal, where we deem that. So if the council wanted to be below market value, either to gift it or to sell it below market value or to lease it below market value, you do have the ability to do so with a non-for-profit. I think there's a few little nuances. I think maybe that requires 2/3 of a motion of council, and there has to be a public hearing, I think, for you to execute that. Because of course, public lands and you're moving them along below market value, the public has the ability to see what's going on, so to speak. So it can be a fairly straight line. The rezoning request may be 6 to 8 months, or it could be streamlined if everything went without any opposition as quick as 2 months. That process could happen as well. And the municipality could lead that. We've done that with our own parcels in the past, and we could lead that process as well. So it really just requires maybe the direction of council to direct me to either come back with a package or to present council with an option to support the request from the group. And we could turn that around fairly quickly.
That answer your question? You're good. Councillor John Smith.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just 2 things. One, just commenting on the CAO's remarks about leasing that land. Would the childcare group need to own the land in order to get their grant from the province, or would a lease be okay? Do you know that?
I don't know that, but I know in our world, the lease usually would have to represent the useful life of the property, the infrastructure, so that lenders and so forth, they don't see that horizon as being too short of a period of time. So it might be a minimally, in my experience in the past, is a 50-year lease or even a 99-year lease. Of course, they all have termination clauses at $1 a year, that kind of approach, or you could gift it to them straight. But I'm not sure what their conditions are, but it's probably similar to what ours might be.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious. My other comment is around the lots that we could put up for sale. I don't think I can make a decision tonight. I'd like to do a little more research. I don't want to get to the point where the public comes back and says, you know, we didn't know those were going to be for sale or sold, and we have a use for them. So I'd like a chance to explore it a little bit more. I know we've had a lot of time, but I'm just not sure what the public would want to do with that land.
Counselor Remy.
Thank you, Chair. I guess it's almost around just adding to Councillor Smith's comments on that. I just curious to them. A lot of them was looking at their deemed open space or whatever. I just have a couple questions around that. So I apologize because I don't know, and I probably could have looked it up, but I apologize.
No problem.
One was based on an email that we received today asking for access to the land. So I thought the timing of this was perfect because it was actually one of the Review Drive, I think. So I just have a question about the open space and when those parcels of land are given to the municipality, it's supposed to be for community use. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, I mean, yes, whether it's municipal or could be a community group that leads the process, but yes, that's the general premise. And there's also the option to take cash in lieu of the land, but the developer is responsible for that percentage, either in land or cash. So most of these would obviously were the land donation. Yeah.
So
I was going to say, and why the municipality of the day is no different here, just, decentralizing recreation services, creating those parks or not. And a good majority of this land obviously didn't get developed at the time.
yeah, so I guess, I mean, specifically about the Riverview Drive, and again, because of that email today, but also because of other stuff, in the past or whatever that I'd known. I know that it's used by a lot of people up on, Etter Road and those types of things to walk their dogs, as per everybody saw in the email that we received today. So, and them not having access to the land. But if the intention was it for it to be community use or parkland or whatever, then I guess what I'm questioning is what are we doing with it if we aren't going to provide access to it, I guess, or that came out wrong, but because it could be in the middle. Is it like in the middle of the woods of a development? Like there's no guidelines as far as like us being able to access it or the public being able to access it. It's just whatever piece of land. And sorry, this is just for my clarification, which.
No, it's really just, it's a project, so to speak, right? So whether it's brought forward from a counselor or whether staff are making a recommendation, so whether it's just simple access to it, I think there's a guardrail that's kind of stopping you from kind of having easy access to it. So it really just comes forward in that way. And again, this could be a generational thing where we have new people and they're engaged and now they're seeing these pieces of land and hey, let's do something with it, right? So I think that was some of the feedback that we received through the rezoning process. Was kind of a bit of an awakening, so to speak, and then hey, we'd like to keep it or can we do something with it? But there really hasn't been a whole lot of movements, not to say it couldn't, but yeah.
Okay, perfect. And sorry, and just one other, this was my actual question. So as far as the engagement with the public, if most of the parcels that you had listed there, I think there was only a couple that weren't residential. So it would have to go through, according to 1B, the option 1B, I think was to rezone them. And then.
Only if, again, that intent was try to make them more market ready, more developed ready. Someone were to build a home on them. Most of these lots would look and feel like a vacant lot in a subdivision, we'll say, or on a street. So to make them more market ready, the thought was to have them rezoned so that the property owner didn't have to do that, not knowing, because it's still a political independent process to have it rezoned. So we were just taking the initiative at the time, but again, option one is sell as is, keep it, or, yeah.
But I guess, sorry, and my fault for not questioning that correctly or not wording that correctly, but that would require a public hearing, correct? So there would
Yes,
be yeah, and I
PM
guess that's where I was going.
PM, first reading.
So it would
public
give you
hearing,
the
second
opportunity to
reading.
hear from the residents as opposed to going down through this list.
Yeah.
That's where I was headed with that
Okay.
comment. So,
Yeah.
okay, awesome. Thanks.
Same process. Yeah.
Counselor Larry Pinch.
So I have one comment, one question. So I would be willing to support the same as Councillor Bonnie Smith suggested, some form of lease for the land for that childcare center. If there is a way to look into moving forwards with options for that to present to council. And then my question is, there is one yellow property here, which happens to be in my district that previous council rezoned, but then it stopped there once it was already rezoned. Is that because there was an issue with that property from resident concerns, or just because we stopped the process as a whole? So then once it got rezoned, it didn't move.
Yeah, I remember with that one, right? It was just stopped. Yeah, I was gonna say whether we, yeah, we just stopped. Yeah.
Okay, Mayor Zabian.
Yeah, just on the Riverview Road parcel, it's accessible to residents. I think the one email we received today was for driveway access. I think they hold yoga classes, and they want to make it more accessible to people who may not be able to access it, who have impediments, or so it's accessible to people. A lot of people do use it. It's just the logistics of putting in something. I remember speaking to staff back in the fall. It's not a very straightforward access point and could be quite pricey. So again, fitting into the community space, Parks and Recs plan, et cetera, it's not deemed as a site that the municipality is going to develop. So a couple more things to that for background other than just driveway access. But again, if council wishes to give direction on that, it's council's wish either way, Chair. I will put something up forward if council has an appetite for the child rec center, but there's other questions, so I'll just hold off at
Okay,
this
I'll
point.
get back to you. Counselor Ivy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The first question I have is there's the designation there for the orange, which indicates properties where residential uses are not permitted. And they all seem to be categorized as resource and open space. And so they're on the list of surplus properties, but and we didn't provide direction to rezone those lands. So what would the potential use of those properties be if they were surplus and put on the market in any fashion? What would it says that residential uses are not permitted for that category. So it'd just be helpful to know what that is. And so I'll ask that question. If we're not sure of what that means, then perhaps we can sort that out, because that's quite a block of the properties there, right? Just to be sure.
Yeah. Are those the PIDs that would be listed as the ones that Deanna, that we would have been rezoning? It's the orange. Yes. So again, I didn't look at every PID, but those I believe were the ones that we were trying to move forward to be rezoned so that they could be used. Because right now, of course, the zoning dictates any parcel, and open space you cannot build a house on as is. So there may be other things that you can do. I'd have to look at the land use bylaw. But
so maybe if we could just be, I'm just not feeling sure about that, like that it says that residential uses are not permitted. It sounds like
without a rezoning.
Without the, okay, so with the qualification, it makes it more clear. So that's that part. And then aside from that, there aren't a lot of others there aside from a couple that have been rezoned, but nothing done with them. And so I guess my general comment is when you look at the work that goes into doing the rezoning, the activity and so on, do we declaring the lot surplus? Is it enough to have them declared as surplus and somebody wants them, they come and get them? But for us to go through the rezoning process and then not have the lots move or to have the backlash. And just as a general comment to council, I don't know, hanging on to them isn't doing us any good, but a lot of effort to go to sell them for purposes where people are used to them being community use. And if they were community use, they have an expectation, as little as we know, how much people are going in and on those lots and using them for walking dogs or whatever it might be. It just seems to be an asset that's sitting there. That's not a bad thing to have open space or forested space within your community. So.
Any other questions? I'm not sure we're getting any direction. Do you want to, Mayor, make a?
Yeah, I'll move that staff bring back a report with recommendation on PID 45285103 to support the request for the Hants Shore Child Care Center.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Bonnie Smith. Any questions on the motion? Clerk Snare, do you want to put that up there for a vote, please? Motion carried. So there is more than that one PID. So is there, that just happened that I was on here tonight and so like I said, that's just a presentation that came to us. That was no grant funding, no nothing like that for anyone that's sitting there thinking otherwise. It was
Yeah. And Madam
information
Chair,
purchase. Yeah.
council doesn't have to make a negative motion. We do not want to do, you don't have to do that. It's in front of you. If we just leave it as is, then maybe we just deal with them one-offs. Folks who make an inquiry, I could bring it back to you. If not, you have the inventory and we'll just leave it there unless someone wants to move in a different direction. That's fine.
Okay. Councillor Ivy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the CAO's comment, it almost seems like a passive sale is not a bad thing to do to denote the properties in some fashion. I don't know how you're going to do that on a land map, but these are available properties that, whether it's through the website or whatever, there's different times when somebody's looking for, might be curious about a piece of land. And if they've got the ability to see that it could be available, we may see them move, over time, the same way that we've held them over time. It wouldn't involve a lot of work, except when a request or an inquiry comes in, it just occurs to me that's the less onerous way of perhaps moving the properties if people are interested.
Mayor Zabian.
Yeah, I was gonna make a similar comment, Chair. There are some properties that have no access or very limited access that, it may be more beneficial to an adjacent property owner who says, like to have a little bit more space to walk the pet or maybe some timber, lumber, or whatever it may be. Again, if you want to cherry pick, we can go through the list, but I would just recommend to the councilors just to look at it. I know there are some that we've gone through the process, as Councilor McLean had said earlier, that, residents really spoke very passionately against any such divesting of certain parcels, but there are other parcels that make sense that I'm looking at just in this recent list that council went through last year, but definitely worth a discussion, maybe one-offs, or somebody feels passionate about one, you bring it back in a report form and we look at it through that way. But they definitely don't do the municipality as a whole any favor just holding on to mine. Some are dating back to the early 80s, 70s that, probably a bigger discussion on parkland contribution for developments going forward as well through the plan review. And so definitely something council should be looking at in more detail.
Most definitely. Councillor Scott McLean.
Thank you, Chair. I have a couple of questions for the CAO about two lots that are in this report, the report further down. But it should be in camera because it could be land contractual and legal. I'm fine with waiting to the end of the meeting too, but just curious if I could do that.
I think that's possible. Not exactly knowing what you're thinking about, but if you're thinking about price and negotiation, that certainly is in camera. I would suggest is in camera worthy if that's kind of a direction that you might want to go. So I'll leave that up to you, Madam Chair, if you want to
Well, maybe we
entertain
could,
that later,
if it's nothing pressing, maybe we could bring it back at the next committee of the whole with a report just to give some information on which ones. So if there's additional information needed from our CAO, he has time to prepare that. Would that be fair?
Yeah, that's fair. It's just it could affect the budget. That's where I was going with that, but that's why it's kind of so quick. But yeah, I could bring it back at council, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That good for you? Okay. Counselor Larry Pench and
I was just going to say, I support the suggestion that Councillor Ivy made of maybe just in some way, and I don't know the way, in making the public aware that these lands are municipally owned and potentially available. Rather than rezoning and then because again it would just kind of be null and void and extra staff time and financial cost. But I think perhaps that some people are not aware, so I don't know if there is a way that we could just make people aware, and then if they reach out about it, fantastic, because I do know when you look, like some of these lots have water frontage, like I think that they would be potentially pieces of property that people would be interested in, but that they're just not aware, because I know, especially in my district, when you drive by, you just assume, oh, that lot's owned by, you know, a seasonal person who just bought it as woodland, or that's lot. So you don't really know. So I don't know if there is a way, maybe that's a question for the CAO, but if there's a way to make the public aware that potentially some of those pieces of property exist in some facet that doesn't elicit like a public outcry for the particular property that Councillor McLean suggested was a concern.
well, hopefully those watching this evening is seeing this list and it's on our agenda that there is land that's a potential. This is the best advertisement we could do this evening. And you will have it. So if it's in district, it's public. It's all public, all here. So it's on our agenda. So it wouldn't hurt if, I wouldn't think. So it's all good. Any other questions on this? If not, we have no direction. We'll move along. Perfect. Moving on to 9, CAO activity update information report, which
Okay.
was circulated.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just a few highlights. Of course, busy month with budget deliberations, which you're all participating in. And the next meeting, budget meeting number 3, is tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Other meetings and events, was on a bit of a modified work week early in April, dealing with a health issue, but for the most part, I was engaged. Diversity, Equity, and Inclusive Committee has met. We had a update for the future of Nova Scotia coastline from the province and some of the resources that they're providing, and sample bylaws for planning departments to consider with respect to that land use and future policy. Courthouse walkthrough, of course, that's an issue that's been in front of council. We've walked through that facility in council. Actually, today I received a formal letter from Nova Scotia Public Works. Last week it was Department of Justice. So Nova Scotia Public Works administers kind of land and buildings and these types of relationships. So I received a letter from Nova Scotia Public Works today confirming. So as far as the tenancy goes, it will be the end of July. But I understand court is July 1st. So just kind of front door and back door explanation for the use of the property. I'm a member of the CAO advisory table. So the Nova Scotia Department of Emergency Management did a kind of a call and asked volunteers or CAOs to sit on this committee. And that committee will meet and help advise the government on emergency management and business continuity in Nova Scotia from RCMP, EMO, and other protective service like discussions. Tomorrow actually is our first meeting. So I'll be rushing back from that meeting for our 5 o'clock meeting. The remedy, just to keep that in front of this council, nothing direct for this council to be aware of, but just increased communication from the province on their 5-year plan to deinstitutionalize folks with disabilities that otherwise had previously been institutionalized. So there's a number of principles and action items that the province are carrying out. Had the opportunity to sit with some folks that new boundaries a week or so ago, and some of the families that are going through some of that application process and answering and asking questions about it. So we're just trying to stay informed as a municipality. Probably the housing piece will be perhaps a challenge where folks would have otherwise had a place. Now there will be independent living. So there's probably other market opportunities that might come out with respect to rental, but the housing piece, at least right now, it could be foreseen as a challenge, but the financial piece and the individual plans seems to be well in place. Hopefully, I'm thinking about it optimistically. Um, Community development is very busy. Planning continues. The Kent Building application, we just keep that in front of council. Significant development. There's work happening there behind the scenes with respect to their infrastructure work, earthworks and storm ponds and those types of things that we've been keeping you up to speed on. We've not heard yet, but still waiting on the Marchand appeal. Some time ago, final submissions were made, so I don't think we've heard anything yet. Sometimes that just happens, but we've not been informed here. Marketing levy, something I want to inform council. I think Councillor Remy, yes, you are the VREN representative, and we have a meeting maybe 2 Fridays from now where individual municipalities will be kind of brought up to speed at either the council appointment level about a new destination and marketing management levy that the VREN is pursuing. And there's kind of looking at the accommodations as the primary environment where that levy would be collected, but I think they are trying to explore some other opportunities, whether it's food industry and whatnot, those secondary industries that benefit from tourists. So that's a piece. Council's role may be to consider a bylaw. And then they're looking at a model. Again, Councillor Remy will be brought up to speed, looking at a mechanism where the collection of the levy may fall outside of the municipality, where in some places it's collected by the municipality and then redistributed to the management group. So anyway, that's something that will be forthcoming, but something that's underway. And I do believe it falls in alignment with the VREN tourism strategy. And I made a little reference there for you if you want to take a look at that. Public Works is busy and a couple meetings happening there. We are expecting the Windsor Stormwater study from CBCL by the end of the month. I know they're doing final calculations and proofing and just exploring all options to be represented to council in its final format when we receive it. And then, as noted, a few meetings in the protective services world, whether it's a workshop that we had on fire and EMO, police advisory, and some EMO training on May 1st with respect to community evacuation. We had a few members of staff attend that workshop. So a few highs, Madam Chair. Is there any other questions?
Very good. Councilors, do you have any questions for our CAO on his report? Councillor John Smith.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. So, court. So one of the options on the court is we to sell it. So if we were to sell it, we would need to have a valuation on it.
Mhm.
So would it be prudent to get that done right away?
Yep. So we've operationally started some of those pieces. So Supervisor Dewey has reached out to Justice to see what their process is. So we expect their tenancy and all the storage to be out by the end of July. I've engaged Turner Drake to execute an appraisal on the property, so we know what that looks like. I think I'd mentioned we have what I would call a mild hazardous assessment, where there was a few samples taken a number of years ago. Feels like 2018, Todd, around 2018, where the municipality at the time had a firm go in and take a look at it, and we kind of through a walkthrough. You know, see a lot of asbestos. Sometimes that stuff's visible on pipes and plumbing, so doesn't seem to be a lot visibly. Probably some tiles. Usually the smaller tiles, 6-7 inch tiles versus a 12-inch tile are indicators. And then lead paint is expected to be present through at the facility just because of the age of the facility. So whether, again, we'll bring this back to council for your consideration with respect to deeming it surplus and putting it on the market or gifting it or demolishing it or whatever. We'll put some options in front of you for your consideration. I think what we would say, it is a prime piece of real estate, at least the building. Oh, and that's the other piece. We haven't tasked him with that yet, but we're going to ask Inspector Leslie, Senior Building Inspector Tim Leslie, could just do kind of a quick walkthrough. With respect to accessibility, we all know the standard has risen. So with respect to a donation or a retrofit, there are going to be some challenges. Anything can be overcome, but they're concrete walls for the most part and doorways that are narrow. Again, the age of the facility. So kind of a direct retrofit will have some challenges. And of course, there's no elevator of sorts. So, but generally it's a pretty clean, well-kept building. It's just aged. But as far as like mold and smells, it's, you know, it's been well maintained, heated and cooled. So for the most part, it's in pretty good shape for a building of its age.
So just to follow up, has there been any historical interest in it?
Not that I'm aware of, but again, word's probably just getting out on the street as far as that goes. Those documents, we'll leave all that to justice. There's some interesting law books from 1901. Not that everything is in there from, you know, it's actually pretty clean and relatively not cluttered when you think a building of that age and just, you know, buildings accumulate things. There's not a lot of clutter in there, but no, so I don't know if there'll be any interest historically, but not yet.
And just one last question. Do you know what the square footage of the building is?
Not right off.
No,
I
okay.
don't.
Okay,
No.
great. All right, thanks.
Yep.
That's everything. Yeah, the stories those walls could tell. We probably don't want to hear them. So no other questions? Okay, we'll move right along into correspondence, information, correspondence received as of May 9th. Minister Lore's letter to mayors, wardens, fire records management system. Eric Bodrich, troubled by ecology degradation, Avon River Causeway, and Karen Wallace, a very proud week. Seeing nothing on those. We'll move around to 11, new business, Headworks Connection Preliminary Design RFP, Director Richard, you're up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So staff issued an RFP for the award of preliminary and design and feasibility for the connection between our two current wastewater treatment plants. So essentially, we solicited the RFP based on first is feasibility. Is it feasible to do it? But we have some issues with just the capacity around the older Lagoon Drive next to the bowling alley at 3 Lagoon Drive. We're getting close or at capacity with the average daily flow, just based on the development catchment area for that facility. So staff have looked at, you know, instead of increasing the size of this one or doing some type of different treatment system, along with the separation that we're planning for the Cannibal Creek and downtown Windsor. If we separate the stormwater, the newer facility located on Wentworth Road, identified as the Headworks, there will be a vast amount of increased capacity for that. And essentially, the only thing that divides them is the 101 highway. So theoretically, if we can connect the two, take some of the flows from Lagoon Drive, direct it to the Headworks, and treat it there, certainly we would be in a great position for, you know, the next few decades. So that's what the RFP is, and based on our procurement, we're just looking for council's blessing to proceed with this RFP for the preliminary design. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Director Richard. Any questions for the director? Counselor John Smith.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So just thinking of the budget discussions that we just had in the last few days, is this a project that could be delayed by a year or 2 or 3 without impacts?
So certainly I wouldn't suggest we delay this one. This is, you know, if you're still pro development, if we want to see increased development, then this is certainly needs to happen, because we're only at the preliminary design phase for this. If it doesn't work out, we're going to have to pivot and see what can be done.
to increase the capacity at the Three Lagoon Drive facility. Hopefully this will work out. Weighing the options very high level. Certainly, if we had to build a new treatment plant or a different type of process, this would be quite a savings. And again, there's going to be ample capacity at the Headworks facility. There is now, but if we lower the amount of stormwater going to that facility, there's a brand new facility built in 2016 that is looking for more wastewater to come towards it. So my suggestion, my opinion, no, this one is fairly high priority on our list.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Counselor Ivy.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the report, Director Richard, through you, Chair, to Director Richard. If I can ask Todd, maybe, Deanna, if you can just pull the screen back to get the two paragraphs at the top of that page. That's just where I struggled a little bit with understanding, I guess, fully. So we're at or above design flows at the lagoons. And so you then referenced that we're looking at doing the diversion that we are, so there'll be less stormwater flow going through the Windsor system, if I can just refer to it as that for this conversation, and then through to the headworks where that ultimately lands. So that becomes more, it's not dry weather flow, but it becomes separated, that it's purely sewage going through there versus the stormwater too. It's just the close off here, just where, when you're saying that once this is complete, there'll be significant capacity at this facility. Is that referring to the lagoons to accept additional dry weather flows? It's close to your second last sentence in the first paragraph that I'm just trying to get clear, because it almost sounds like we're saying the headworks would have additional dry weather flows, because then we say additional storm weather flows from the lagoon wastewater treatment plant. Is that just wording, or am I misunderstanding what's intended
So
here?
sure, through you, Madam Chair. So that's related to once the separation is complete, or any separation, there's even more capacity at the headworks, the newer facility on Wentworth Road. So that's what that's referencing. And so also, if we can divert water from Lagoon Drive, we're also going to increase the capacity there to accept more dry weather flows. So essentially, they would be running in parallel. And based on most of the flows, the limiting factor is the lagoons. So our plan is to divert most of the water from the lagoons to the headworks. But we're also going to have the consultant look at the possibility, if there was an issue at the headworks, to actually accept flows to the lagoons if there was an issue. So we could run them both in tandem or parallel or back and forth. But the majority of the time, the additional flows would be going to the headworks that would normally go to lagoons. And with the lagoons, we have older systems, the entire serviced area of 3 Mile Plains, built in the 60s and 70s, a lot of leaky pipes, a lot of what I refer to as I&I, or inflow and infiltration. So that would buy us some time. We know we have to do a lot of work, a lot of replacement on the 3 Mile Plains system. So again, it could offset some of those capital projects that are identified by having this connection. So
Thank you very much. And I see, as you're explaining it, and I'm looking at the wording here, I see that it's actually should have been pretty clear that it's the flow from the lagoons through to the wastewater the headworks, to be clear on that. The one other follow-up question that I do have, though, is relating to the lagoons. And do we have sediment that builds up within those ponds that needs to be, like, how are we in that regard? Are we loads of capacity, getting close on capacity? Is that the reason for part of having to do this in the first place?
So great questions to you, Madam Chair. We do have some sediment. We get some inorganic stuff like the sand and the silt and the granular stuff that really doesn't decompose. We did an evaluation just before consolidation. We thought we had a lot more sludge in that first cell than we did. And based on a consultant's report, they told us, no, we're not at the point where we need to dredge this and remove it. We did an expansion in 1996 where we 2016, where we increased the diffusers, the type of diffusers, and that allowed us to chew up some of that sludge that was in that first cell, the lagoons. So we're in pretty good shape there, but great point. We will have to do something, dredging at some point. So with this connection, we could potentially take Lagoon Drive offline for a month while we actually dredge that. So it would allow us to do that a lot more efficiently.
And through you, Madam Chair, last question is, So the way you've got the air dry, is this basically, we'd install effectively a fork in the road for the diversion. Is it that simple? I realize that that's not what's intended maybe with your illustration, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
a bit more. We need to do some work to that lift station. It's a fairly large lift station. We'd like to do some screening too, because part of the issues of people are depositing things, like I talked about before, that get wrapped around some of our aerators and cause some issues. New Minus is having the same issues with their aerators. So if we can screen some of those things, so we're looking at upgrading the lift station, and then there'll be like a manifold. So we want to take all the flow into Lagoon Drive, or we want to put 30% of it to the headworks to allow us to do some control through valving and a manifold. So
that's great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Counselor John Smith.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So another question around the headworks. Is there a CSO into the St. Croix River?
no, there's no CSO. Anything built after a certain time, you're not allowed to put a CSO in any treatment facility. So any bypasses would be internal. We may bypass a screen, but it's still going to go through the treatment process and be fully treated. So, but no CSOs in the St. Croix River.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mayor Zabian.
I'll make a recommendation, Chair, if I may.
Sure.
Council approve the award of RFP WHRMPW 25-02 Headworks Connection Preliminary Design to CBCL Limited for the price of $61,100 before applicable taxes.
Is there a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Larry Pinch. We'll put that to a vote. Motion carried. Second part to that, Mayor Zabian.
Yep, the council approved a design contingency amount of $11,112.59 before applicable taxes.
Moved by the mayors or seconded by
Second.
Counselor Larry Pinch. We'll put that to a vote. Clerk Snare, please. Motion carried. Moving right along, Cold Drive Flood Mitigation FRIIP FRIP Application Recommendation Report, Director Richard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Essentially, this is just I'm looking for pre-approval for council to give blessing for us to apply for a funding application. So this is under the Flood Risk Infrastructure Investment Program. And essentially, we picked the Cold Drive Stormwater Management Facility upgrade towards this project. Now, we do have two applications in. We're hoping we may be successful either under this or another one. We've talked to provincial officials. So essentially, we're just looking for blessing. I don't want to get into too much detail, but I think council's aware of the J.D. Irving facility along Wentworth Road and Cold Drive. So it's the stormwater facility or management facility to deal with stormwater in that section. Because we do have some issues with Wentworth Road that we don't have the capacity for current cold water or Cold Drive stormwater ponds. So it's for that project. So if we're successful, it'll be 50% funding from the province and 50% from the municipality.
Thank you, Director Richard. Counselor Larry Pinch.
I was just prepared to make the recommendation.
Oh, is there any
on that.
questions? Seeing none, go ahead.
That Committee of the Whole recommends that Council approve the Cold Drive Flood Mitigation Project for submittal under the Flood Risk Infrastructure Investment Program.
A seconder,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Ivy. We'll put that to a vote, and Counselor Wheaton was out of the room for this, so he will not be allowed to vote in this because he missed the discussion. Am I correct in that, Clerk Snare? Thank you. Yanish, thank you. Motion carried. So we're going to move on to 11C, Meeting Committee Procedure Policy Amendments Recommendation Report, Clerk Snare.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. The report before you provides specific recommendations related to the meeting and committee procedural policy following discussions from the Climate Action Committee and the Diverse and Inclusive Communities Committee. Within the report, you'll note that the Climate Action Committee proposed some housekeeping amendments to their terms of reference. Many of these recommended edits involve adding the WHRM GHG emission local action plan to the committee's reference plans, deliverables, and goals, as this plan guides much of the municipality's climate action work in conjunction with the municipal climate, the MCAPs. The remaining changes have been outlined in a table within the report. Along with that, the Diverse and Inclusive Communities Committee also met and discussed establishing a terms of reference and Appendix M. When the committee was established, the Appendix M was drafted by staff with the intention of revisiting this document once the committee was up and running to determine how they would like to structure their own committee. The committee noted the acronym DICC had the potential to be problematic and offensive and felt it was important to get away from the acronym but still carry the same meaning. Diversity, equity, and inclusion were the foundation of the committee, and members wanted that to be reflected within the name. So the committee was proposing that their name be changed to Diverse, Equitable, and Inclusive Communities Committee, DEICC, but also suggested using the full committee name whenever possible. So that's the report. Happy to answer any questions regarding it.
Any questions to Clerk Snare on the report? Seeing no lights, there is a motion. Mayor Zabian.
I'll make the motion, Chair, Council direct the CAO to engage staff to make the necessary changes to the meeting committee procedural policy, RCOGE-003.00, following discussion of council at the May 13th, 2025 committee of the whole meeting.
Made by the mayor. Is there a seconder?
Second.
Councillor Larry Pinch seconds. Can we have that for a vote? Clerk Snare, please. Motion carried. We are down now to 12, our public comment period. So if we have anyone, so come on up, state your name for the record. We allow 5 minutes a person, so to a maximum of 20 per person. So you're on the clock now for your 5.
I was concerned I wouldn't be able to speak tonight because of the crowd, but
You're
I'm
good.
glad I was. I'm Guido G. Forlani. One update, I was surprised as you to see this morning an email from Kathleen O'Brien, which is the lady that was here at PACAC a week ago, with a long email that I couldn't understand what was about. Happily, she clarified, and what's happening is that her kid is sick, and she couldn't come tonight to speak again to all of you regarding the problem of the cell tower and the health problem related to that. The Judy Millard afforded. And she's the one that passed me the pamphlet regarding Professor Ole Johansson, or whatever name he has. He's a Swedish PhD, lots of stuff on his shoulder and a hat, scientist and researcher. So I saw an email following, apologizing, where she just was stressed out. She has 3 kids, full job, and the husband too. And so she just sent it out because this situation with the, what is the name of the company? Share Tower? Maybe Share Tower. Is a situation that is stressing a lot of stuff out of them. Anyway, the update is that Canadian for Safe Technology, which is C4ST, which is a non-governmental organization founded by, nonetheless, the former president of Microsoft Canada. So a dude that has been in the tech for quite a while and knows a thing or two about Wi-Fi and 5G and whatnot, right? And so this organization is going to back her up. There's going to be some momentum built around this thing happening in Windsor. around Share Tower. And probably some news will be involved. But I have a meeting with Canadian for Safe Technology at 8:30 on Zoom for the national meeting. And I don't know if they are going to try to find references in Nova Scotia for having reference in Nova Scotia. I have no idea. I'm just here to support, one of the people from Scott McLean district. And that seems that it's kind of gaining some, momentum. That's an update. We'll see where it goes. And by the way, Kathleen has promised that she will write, because she called me today when she realized what she did. She sent this long pamphlet with no explanation whatsoever. So many of us went like, waltz, tango, foxtrot, right? And then she said she's going to probably send you something shorter, easy to understand, with proper salutation at the beginning and what is her ask. All right. So I am just passing that news. The other things instead pains me a lot to bring upon, but I have to because I am a big proponent of liberty and freedoms. Like Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher said, the reason why we do government is to limit the power of it so that people are free to do what they got to do. There is something that is puzzling me since November when I read the inspired October 2024 West End, what do you call it? Newsletter? I don't know what's the name. Okay, which I love very much. I love to read it. I spend an hour going through. I turn the last page and it goes like positive communication, changes to better support changes to better support you are coming on November 1st, 2024. It goes on to saying that hearing from you, the people, and sharing, blah, 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 is very important to be able to share, have respect. And we need to communicate in a manner that fosters learning, growth, support, safety. Beautiful, great values. To be honest, we continue, online communication has become divisive and non-inclusive. It is happening everywhere, not just on our sites. Okay. We need to ensure that our sites are safe. Okay. Safety on the site, I need to understand it better because it's just communication, it's, freedom of speech. I know that we are not Americans, we don't have the First Amendment, we don't have the Second, we don't even have a Constitution, right? It's a puzzle of many stuff together, but still, it's an important thing. So we need to ensure that our sites are a safe place to find information in a place where our community members are not affected negatively by other comments and beliefs. So we have a solution. When I read that word, I can't help but think about Hegelian dialectic, which is we create a problem and it's painful, and then we bring the solution and everybody cheers up. And that is the beginning of everything that has having ism attached. Socialism, communism, fascism, and Nazism. Meaning that we go in the direction of it's for your safe, which I cannot pronounce it in German, but it's what the German Nazis were saying to the Jewish people when they were quarreling together to bring them in a camp. It's for your safety, said in German. The solution was that effective November 1st, 2024, comments and messaging on Facebook will be turned off. And people are pissed off. People talk. They don't like it. So communicate directly with us, send emails, is great. But I think that if we want to have the voice of the people, I don't know if you use that word in English, but feel it. Feel how the population is going, right? I think it's important that we let people talk, especially on Facebook, because on Facebook, if I say that you are something, that do name calling, there is my face attached there, Guido G. Forlani. So it's not like on X, whatever, Twitter, former, where you can have an acronym and you are XYZ and you do stupid stuff. I think I like to, for a moment, briefly, quote Mayor Zebian when he says, West End, when it's something bad happened, West End, you can do better. I think that council, you can do better. West End, we can do better. We don't need to censor. I think we can withstand someone that lose it if they want to lose it and they make a poor spectacle of themselves. But I think it's important that if we have social media, we have the possibility of commenting, because people are seeing this as, I spoke with people, a form of communism and censorship. Censorship happened widely in 2020 and 2021. That was very bad. Then 2022, people gambled in Ottawa because they were protesting. Come on. I mean, we are not a regime. We are a monarchy. This is a kingdom. Yet, we can still uphold communication. So if I can do something tonight, I would implore you, as they used to say in the Commonwealth, apparently you implore a council or an MLA or an MP or anyone as an official position, I would implore you to remove the censorship on the messages on Facebook, because the people want to speak with you. They need it. Usually when you stop communication, that is the beginning of revolutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have a good evening. Okay, moving right along, in camera, there's none. Our next meeting is tomorrow, May 14th, for our special committee of the whole for budget at 5 p.m. And then we'll be back May 27th for our council meeting at 6, but I'll give a reminder tomorrow. So everyone have a good evening. See you tomorrow night at 5 o'clock.